Yeah. Nice. Okay. Go live. Okay. No, thanks.
Live in 20 seconds. 2 minutes.
Just give me 10 minutes. 10 seconds. Now it's live.
Right. Namaste, and sorry for that delay. There were some technical glitches at my end, and my apologies for that. On behalf of Indic, it is my privilege to welcome all of you. Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage, or INTAC as is popularly known, is a trust committed towards preservation, conservation, and revitalization of ancient Indian heritage. Its conservation engagements are with countries' built heritage, natural heritage, material heritage, intangible cultural heritage, and crafts and community. Apart from this, we also have outreach divisions which help in spreading awareness about heritage and other related issues. For our work at the grassroots level, we have a network of 200 chapters across the country, and these chapters are exclusively comprised of volunteers. So that was a very brief introduction to INTAC to give you the context. And today's talk will focus on how we can draw from ancient Indic knowledge systems to augment and to fortify our battle against the pandemic, hand in hand with medicines and modern science. Because the practice of these ancient tools and techniques enables us to adopt a more holistic approach towards mental and physical health in modern times, and also immensely helps build up, intensify, and multiply our readiness to handle situations such as the currently raging pandemic. And now it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Dr. Shruti Poddar. Shruti is a pioneer of NAD Vibronics, a NAD yogic wellness ecosystem based on Indic vibrational yogic science. She has taught and influenced over 15,000 teachers in integral education. She regularly gives talk on scientific explorations of music and ancient Indian sound for tackling diseases. She founded the Shruti Foundation in 2007, which is a charitable and research foundation for promoting education, wellness, and healthcare, value-based leadership and advocacy, with a special focus on indigenous knowledge systems and science. But her favorite bit of the introduction for me is that she is our convener for 3 districts of Rajasthan: Sikar, Jhunjhunu, and Churu. So without further ado, Shruti, all yours.
Mute.
Shruti, you're mute.
Okay, so thank you. And namaste to everyone. It's my pleasure and a great privilege to be back to share my learnings, my little learnings in this vast universe with you again this year. I had the fortune of talking about yoga, particularly from the aspect of Nad Yoga last year on International Yoga Day again with you. And today it's a very, very special, focused topic that we have today, which is to somehow figure out, to find solutions in the current scenario, how to use our own Indic systems, our traditional knowledge systems, our ancient wisdom, how can we draw little nuggets of wisdom which can help us deal immediately with the great urgency that we have, the great problems that we are facing today with the pandemic, with the new iterations of the pandemic, which we have also come to know of in the last few days, black fungus, which has also been declared an epidemic. So we are in the middle of a perilous phase, particularly in our country, India, but also all over the world. And I am happy today to share some of the things that I have personally used for many, many years in my life. Indeed, I always speak out of whatever works for me and for people I know in this world who have tried these things. So what we are going to do here is to try and use first-person empiricism, things that have been tried and tested and are not dependent on a Western scientific probe necessarily. Okay? So, Indic knowledge systems is the focus today. I know that the leadership of Indic is very, very connected with Indic knowledge systems and are very enthusiastic always about promoting the wisdom of our heritage. And that is why I'm very, very sure that all of us here are equally connected and equally eager to not only hear about these, but also to adopt them in our lives. Okay. So first of all, when we are approaching ancient wisdom or Indian knowledge or the cultural ethos of Indic thought, what should we consider? If we go according to various systems of thought, various systems, whether it is the yogic exponential readings that we have, whether we have the Shakti practices, whether we have the tantric practices, everywhere, we are taking the human body, the human consciousness as the hologram of the universal consciousness. So if we go deep into any system in our culture, we will realize that again and again and again, yogis, realized beings, great gurus have told us, understand the universe within you if you want to deal with the universe outside. Today, we are living in a world where we hardly even know the universe that exists within us, except from an outer perspective, from a scientist perspective, from a media perspective. We are living in reflection. There is no probe that's going on within, or very little. Maybe now we've begun to probe since we don't have answers from the outside. So let me begin with a little introduction on how we can begin to look at the human body and mind or the human consciousness. Human consciousness is really operating through what we recognize as the physical body, along with our nervous or neural networks, our nadis flowing, our pranic flows through the body. And we also believe that we have a mind that thinks, that intuits, that analyzes, that sometimes has premonition, sometimes has analogy, sometimes has intuition. So we also recognize that there are different levels of mind somewhere, right? So we are made of this triple cord of existence. This body is really, in other words, the vehicle of the spirit, the vehicle of some energy that makes us move, that makes us talk, that makes us think, that makes us walk, that makes us feel. So this triple cord of existence, as we may call it, is made up of the physical or the terrestrial being, that which manifests, creates, uses material to manifest whatever is in his or her vision or consciousness. Then there are our electrical flows, our pranic flows, which run parallel to our neural networks. So we have a vital system. So the physical, the vital, which is full of pranic flows, and the world of mind, the mental, or the world of light, if we go to the higher planes. So often, as an analogy, these three levels can also be given an analogy of the three levels of consciousness. Creation, Shrishti, maintenance, Sthiti, and absorption into the truth, which is Samhara. Also, sometimes we also have the words which we know quite well: Bhu, the terrestrial plane; Bhuva, the interactive plane; and Swa, the world of light. So we are operating in these three planes, right? What has that got to do with the pandemic? Okay. Anything that happens to you begins with your mind. Now, one would say, how is that true? Everything is filled with virus today. The whole atmosphere is filled with virus. We are being attacked. Our masks are saving us. Otherwise, we would be gone. The truth is that most of us, even if we haven't been affected by the pandemic, have got the virus going inside us at some point or the other. The difference is our body's ability to combat it. How does the body's ability to combat a negative force from outside, how does the body get that force? What is this combative force? We also call it immunity. But there's another way of looking at it. And that definition lies in our definition also sometimes of yoga itself. What is yoga? What happens when a person gets into a yogic state? When his chitta, when his stuff of consciousness is so still that it is not reactive to the environment, it is not moved by the pulls and pushes of the environment. In other words, what is happening to a yogi? A yogi has concentrated, has withdrawn the expenditure of his prana. He has got the tools, the skills, the abilities to withdraw his pranic flows, concentrate them, almost like transforming a light bulb into a laser beam. So when you transform the distractive flows of your energy and withdraw it and concentrate it, then the energy of your body. Bovis, have you heard the word Bovis? Bovis is a unit of measurement of energy in the world, of anything. You can measure the Bovis of a human being by certain instruments. One of those instruments is called a Lecker antenna. You can measure the Bovis of the air or the atmosphere under a banyan tree, under a peepal tree, near a temple, of different spaces according to their vastu, etc., etc. So when the body becomes concentrated through yogic practice, various kinds of yogic practice, the energy level of the body increases. The bovis of the body increases. When your body's internal magnetism or internal electromagnetic force becomes more than the atmospheric electromagnetic force, if your bovis is more than your surroundings, then you are able to combat negative influences from the atmosphere on the physiological level, on the psychological level, emotional level, mental level. So one of the meters of understanding how you are strong enough to combat negative influences of any kind, including a virus, it is how much you have increased your bovis. So of course, we're going to come to how can we increase it. There are certain methodologies. The other thing is the famous word nowadays, which we keep hearing all the time, oxygen. So what is oxygen? Oxygen is that which gives movement, which gives fire, which gives electrical force to everything that lives and breathes. So we know the words DNA, RNA. We are made up of DNA. DNA can lie inert for centuries. It doesn't have life, but it has the code of life. What does DNA stand for? Deoxyribonucleic acid, bereft of oxygen, deoxy. When oxygen is introduced, what does it mean? Agni is introduced, fire, electricity is introduced, and that turns into the first movement of creation. Satyam. There are 3 words in the Veda: Satyam, Ritam, Brihat. Satyam is the code, that which is but unmanifest. Ritam is the unfolding of that code into the laws of nature. And out of those laws of nature that vibrate comes the expansion, the diverse expansion that creates everything that is manifest. Satyam, Ritam, Brihat. In our own cellular consciousness or in our own body's consciousness, we might compare it to the DNA, the RNA, and then the proteins and amino acids that make our nails, that make our hair, that make our skin, that make our eyes. Everything that we see of our form is made up of amino acids and proteins. Brihat, diversification. But do you know that every part of your being is a hologram of the rest? Your eye is a hologram of the body, your hand is a hologram of the body, your foot is a hologram of the body, your ear is a hologram of the body. Everything in your body is a hologram of the whole, is a micro of the macro. So any part influenced can influence the rest of the body. And that is why I said in the beginning, you are a microcosm of the entire universe. If you understand yourself from within, you can understand the workings of the universe and deal with it. Okay, so one thing that we spoke about is how do we increase our bovis? Second thing that we have come to now, how do we understand oxygen in terms of prana, and how do we increase it in our being? So one of the ways that we know how do we increase it in our being? By breathing, by the action of breath. Sometimes when I ask people, what is oxygen? They say it's breath, it's air. No, air has oxygen, it has other substances, it has bacteria, it has virus, it has all kinds of things in it. Oxygen as well. So air is only a carrier of oxygen, not oxygen itself. There are other ways of splitting certain complex compounds and extracting oxygen out of it as well. That also goes on in the body. There are certain releases of certain chemicals, certain processes through digestion, which also give us prana. So we draw prana through the breath. And our culture is full of technologies of breath to help us not only increase the oxygen and the prana in our consciousness or in our body, in our lungs, in our brain, etc., but also to increase the power of mind. So let us see how we increase oxygen within ourselves. Let us take up a few examples. Just before that, I'd like to mention the use of oxygen in our body. We have taken in a lot of oxygen. How are we using that oxygen? Are we conserving the oxygen within ourselves, or are we wasting it? I don't know if we all know, but our brain, particularly nowadays with all the hyperactivity that we are involved with, we are constantly looking at our phone, we are constantly looking at media, we are constantly talking to people. We spend very, very little time in real silence, silence of mind, silence of mental activity, silence of vocal activity, and so on. When the mind is engaged in any kind of activity, it uses 75 to 80% of the oxygen that we take into our body. So because we don't rest enough, we also exhaust ourselves. We reduce our bovis. We reduce our power to be immune by distracting ourselves all the time, by engaging in something or the other all the time, by not being able to be still. So first and foremost, just like we say, a penny saved is a penny earned, similarly, the oxygen saved is the oxygen earned. So please remember that next time. Okay? Okay. So let us look at some tools and techniques that we have got from our ancient wisdom, our ancient practices. How can we use them to increase our pranic levels, to increase the oxygen within us, and to make ourselves pranically stronger? Key word, make ourselves pranically stronger. Okay? So we come to various techniques which we call pranayama. Okay? So what is pranayama? Pranayama is the discipline. Yama is discipline. Okay? So prana, disciplining the prana, disciplining the flow of prana in our system, in our pranic movement. Okay? Right. So there's a lot that you might have seen already, but I will share here today a couple of exercises that we can use in our lives very simply in maybe just 5 to 10 minutes every morning or any time of the day whenever we haven't eaten too much. We can use these exercises to increase the oxygen. Okay. So first and foremost, before we take in, we must cleanse. That's a rule that we have in life for everything. If you don't cleanse, if you don't empty out first things that are not needed, how can you fill in? So the first and foremost thing that we have to do is to shake up the lungs in a way that it releases the toxins and the carbon dioxide and exhales it. A lot of it remains, a lot of toxins remain, a lot of toxins stay lodged inside our lungs and create layers which makes us weaker and weaker and weaker as we grow older. So one very important exercise is to expel out toxins. How do we expel out toxins? Okay. So breathing out is the main movement here. Okay. There is an exercise, a pranayama, which is called Kapalbhati. So Kapalbhati is extensively used in yogic practice in many, many schools of yoga. What is Kapalbhati? What are the things that we need to remember while doing Kapalbhati? One, always be in a symmetrical position, keep your spine straight, sit in a space where you don't have to be restless, you don't have to move for some time. So if you can sit cross-legged, please do sit cross-legged, that's better. Otherwise, just with your spine straight, wherever you are. Then, your chin should be parallel to the ground. Not like this or touching or too close to your chest. Keep it parallel to the ground whenever you are doing any kind of pranic or even exercise or even chanting. So with your chin parallel to the ground, concentrate on the exhalation of the breath. Not with too much force, just concentrate on exhalation. So what we begin with is relaxation, taking in a deep breath, one more relaxation, then taking in another deep breath, one more relaxation, and the third time try to fill in your lungs up to your stomach. Feel your stomach coming out. Make it easy, make your body easy. Very often we can't hold the breath because we are too tense. Our stomach is tense. Let everything go. Let your body be easy. Take a deep breath. And then exhale 20 to 30 times. You can do it slower. Okay? So basically, we are exhaling, relaxing, exhaling, relaxing. That relaxation is a very, very short period between every exhalation, but we are not concentrating on inhalation at all. Exhaling up to the point when our stomach, our diaphragm feels absolutely empty. So 20 to 30 times in 3 cycles. So you do it 20 to 30 times. Breathe in, breathe out, relax. Breathe in, breathe out, relax. And then take a third breath, a long breath, and then another 20 to 30 times. Then again, relax. And then another cycle. So this is called Kapalbhati. You can follow it in more detail later. We won't spend too much time on it today. There is another exercise which helps you clean up your nasal, paranasal sinuses which have been under attack during this pandemic. These are the places which are getting blocked, which are storing the virus, which are giving it a home, and then finally taking it into the lungs. So basically, throughout the pandemic, the parts that are in play in this pandemic are your face, your sinuses, your throat, and your lungs. These are the areas under attack. So these areas, cleaning up these areas becomes most important, and the intake of oxygen becomes most important. There's another exercise now called Bhastrika, another pranayama exercise. Now, there are various ways of doing it. One way is where you concentrate on a huge amount of intake of oxygen with force and forceful exhalation with force to take out a huge amount of carbon dioxide out of your lungs. You may even just do this and not Kapalbhati. Sometimes we can just do Bhastrika as well. So one way is just sitting again in a relaxed pose in Chin Mudra. This is called Chin Mudra. Okay, your forefinger and your thumb together, palms facing the sky and resting on your lap. Okay, so you can sit in Chin Mudra whenever your hands are not involved with any other mudra. Chin Mudra is the typical mudra that we keep because it helps us to focus. It helps us to concentrate. It helps us to come to a poise of stillness. So, Chin Mudra. And with force, we take in the breath. So, this is the way we exhale, inhale a lot of oxygen and exhale a lot of carbon dioxide. That's one way of doing it. The other way that we do sometimes is raise your hands up, feel yourself pulling the energy from above, bringing it down with force as you exhale. So when you take your hands up, you inhale, and when you bring your hands down, you exhale with force. You may even close your fist as you come down to the side along your waist. So these are two ways of doing Bhastrika. It's called Bhastrika. So you can do it with the hand movement or without the hand movement. Helps you to quickly take in a lot of oxygen and also expel carbon dioxide from your lungs. So that's a very important practice as well. I can't stress enough on the importance of first expelling what is negative inside you before trying to take in a lot of oxygen. Expelling, kriya, nyasa, purification is very, very important and a prerequisite before you take in prana. Okay? So we have that. And then, of course, we have another very, very common but very important pranayama exercise, which is called Nadi Shuddhi or Anulom Vilom. There are two ways of doing it. One way is when you have your hands in Vishnu Mudra with your first two fingers folded, your last two fingers closing your left nostril and your thumb closing your right nostril. So this is one way of doing it. You begin with inhalation from the left, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hold. Exhale through the right, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hold. Inhale through the right, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hold. Exhale through the left, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hold. And then again, you repeat the cycle. So this is one cycle. Left, hold, right, hold, right, hold, left, out. Okay? That's one cycle of Anulom Vilom or Nadi Shuddhi. The other way of doing it is instead of folding the first two fingers, you keep them on your forehead and again hold the last two fingers here at your left nostril and the thumb at your right nostril. So everything is the same except your two fingers are up on your forehead instead of going down. That's the difference. So this is another way of doing it. The advantage of this way of doing it is also when you breathe in, you can actually feel the pranic globules and you can concentrate on it spreading into the different channels of your head. Remember, prana, oxygen, is actually electricity. So when you take in prana, it ignites your electrical networks. If you don't have oxygen, you can't think. Your brain stops thinking. Your brain thinks with oxygen. Your eyes see with oxygen. So imagine the amount of electrical force that you're taking in. The science of this is that you are actually charging one part of your being at a time. You are two people in one body. You have two brains which have actually nothing to do with each other. They're two different entities, the left brain and the right brain. If there was not a connecting bridge in the middle, if that bridge got cut for some reason, and we have seen experiments like that where the bridge has got damaged because of an accident, and there was a boy, when he saw with the left eye, he could only feel and intuit. When he saw with the right eye, he could only analyze. So your left brain is the analytical brain and your right brain is the intuitive, creative brain. And it is this bridge, the more connections, electrical connections that you build in this bridge, the more fire you have in your mind, the more capability you have in the mind, the more intention force you have in your mind, the more control you have over your body, because your mind is fired with electricity. Okay, so how do you fire the mind? Through Nadi Shuddhi. Because when you take in breath from the left nostril and then close it, it cannot come back only feeding one side of your body. Now it is forced to create an 8 and then come out of the right nostril. So it is forced to cross over pranically. The electrical force crosses over pranically, and then you release through the other nostril. So that is what happens when you do alternative nostril breathing. And not only does it give you tremendous amount of oxygen, but it also creates greater electrical force in the body and greater harmony in the workings of your chakras, in the workings of your bodies. Okay, so these were a few common, easy pranayama exercises which one should follow every day. These are very, very powerful. Of course, there are many other fashionable things that are floating in social media now. Do prone breathing, do all kinds of breathing. But yeah, how long can you do those kinds of breathing? This is something that must be practiced to increase your general immunity really quickly. Okay? So that's a little bit. Yes?
I want to ask a question here.
Yes.
This is to fortify yourself over a period of time, right? People who are suffering, any uninitiated suffering from COVID, should they attempt it?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I had a case in my own home, and we were measuring the oximeter. Within a few breaths, within a few deep breaths, the reading in the oximeter went up by 2 points. Of course, when a person is not able to breathe at all, then it's a different matter. Then, I mean, there is no other way except to give them oxygen from the outside. But if a person is affected and a person is at the brink of oxygen, or even gone a little lower into the 80s, pranayama is a very, very effective way of bringing the oxygen up. Very effective way. You can give intermittent help, of course, with the oxygen concentrator or the cylinder, etc. But if you are conscious of your breathing, throughout the day, intermittently, you will be able to free yourself of the oxygen concentrators much, much faster, because you believe in your breath. Most people have lost belief in themselves. People have lost belief in their own body's capacity to generate oxygen. How is that possible? I mean, unless your lungs are completely under attack and blocked and you're completely choked, that's a very advanced stage. We're not talking about the very advanced stage. We are talking not only about building immunity, we are also talking about people who are affected. Oxygen is increased by prana, by breath. That's not rocket science. Everybody can do it. You're still breathing, aren't you? Even if you have COVID. So why wouldn't you breathe better? Yes? Okay. Any other question?
As and when.
Okay, fine. Right. So that was a little bit about breath from our yogic systems. Here, I would like to just show you a little picture of the parts that are getting affected in this pandemic. I'm going to share the screen with you for a moment. Okay. So these are the paranasal sinuses that you can see. Some of you have heard about these sinuses, some of you may know about them, but this is what they look like. So around your head, around your nose, and here on the sides. So you can see how the breath is taken in and then how the sinuses around are affected, not only by what you breathe in, but also what you take in through your eyes, not just what you take in through your nose. What you take in through your mouth, what you take in through your nose, and what you take in through your eyes affects this entire region. Okay? So I just thought I'll show you this for a moment. Okay? Yes. Now, what was the reason for me showing you this? Because I want to speak about some practices that we were taught when we were little children. It was a part of Indian culture. There are certain practices which many of us, except people who are still so-called old school, our older generations still practice many of these things, but younger generations seem to have forgotten them. Okay? So I remember one practice that we were told to do almost every day, and I used to do it every day, even now I do it quite often, is clean your eyes every day. Splash your eyes not only with water, but with gulab jal, rose water. You might have heard of this. Rose water. If one got an eye infection, conjunctivitis or something or the other, many people have fallen into the clutches of finding all possible solutions in Western medicine. But I can assure you out of my own experiences that it's not really necessary most of the time. If you put rose water in your eyes, it not only cleans your eyes, but it also cleans your paranasal sinuses. You might notice that if you put drops in your eyes, the drops also come out through your nose. And you can sometimes also feel something coming out of your mouth. So putting drops into your eyes cleans your paranasal sinuses, all of it. If you put the drop once and you put it once more and you put it the third time, by the time you put those drops 3 times, you have cleaned this entire system. Rose water. Common practice. I don't know how many times I have cured conjunctivitis with just rose water. Very, very powerful, very non-invasive, nourishing for the body. These are integral, holistic treatments which have no side effects. No side effects. We suddenly come up with black fungus now. Why have we come up with black fungus? Primary reason is that we are not educated as to how to use cylinders, how to use oxygen concentrators. The pipe that we put into our nose to breathe in is not washed every day. There is bacteria that's forming in it every day. We are not changing it. We are not washing it. There are such unhygienic practices that are being followed in homes and in hospitals. And again and again and again. Today, a lot of buildings in the world and also now in our country believe that we don't need fans because the air gets purified if our windows are closed and if the air conditioner is on and if we have an air purifier inside. So we have become enemies with the Pancha Mahabhuta or the 5 elements. We think the 5 elements are our enemies. We need to protect ourselves from them. So we need to jail ourselves. Today, because of black fungus, what is happening? Doctors are saying, all offices, open up your windows, put the fans on so that what is lying in the air can flow out. We are coming back to our old practices, keeping windows open, cross ventilation, so important. Fungus forms when there is no cross ventilation. Most of our problems are because we are not friends with nature anymore. We are not building Agni through looking at the sun every day. We are not building Vayu through breathing fresh every day. We are not eating fresh, healthy foods. We are eating more and more fast food. So we are at loggerheads with the elements. And what we are facing today is because of that. Okay? So coming on to some other ways of how we can combat this now. Gulab jal, very good way of cleaning your sinuses. Saunt, adrak, ginger, dried ginger, which is powdered. Saunt, if a few granules of saunt or powdered ginger is put a little away from your nose and sniffed, it helps you sneeze and take out anything that's stuck here in the mucosa. It's an old practice. Putting ajwain in a little muslin cloth and smelling it is another way of cleaning your nasal sinuses. So these are some old herbal household practices that help you clean the nasal sinuses even without taking steam. You have to do nothing. So what is steam doing? When you take in steam, you're helping to ease out things that are blocked. You can ease it out by putting rose water in your eyes. You can ease it out by sneezing out, by sniffing things like saunt or ginger powder or ajwain, other things. All these things are used natural food substances to clean your entire respiratory tract. So these were common herbal mechanical methodologies that we had of cleaning this area. Another very, very important body of knowledge is the body of the use of seed sounds, Bija Mantras. We have a whole universe of seed sounds, many seed sounds in the practice of Hatha Yoga, in the practice of Shri Vidya, the Shakti practices. What are Bijas? Bija is a seed. Seed is a core energy. When activated, manifests according to its nature. That's the meaning of a seed. A seed of a particular tree grows in a particular way. Similarly, a seed sound has a particular energy which is connected to how it is uttered. So in the Sanskrit alphabet, we have, say, the lines of consonants. We have gutturals, which come from here, k, k, g, k. We have, so that's the first line of the consonants. Second line is palatals, ch, ch, j, ch, tongue hitting the palate, and so on. So we have all these lines, p, p, b, bh, labials, lips touching each other, th, th, d, th, tongue touching the teeth, dentals, and so on. So every line of the Sanskrit alphabet was beautifully arranged according to how it is creating percussion with the local, with your vocal anatomy. So your vocal anatomy from your neck to your mouth becomes like a percussion instrument. And each percussion is arranged because each percussion has a different kind and a different length of resonance in the human body. So different sounds resonate in different parts of the human body and harmonizes that part. So we have the entire chakra system. Most of us here, I'm sure, have seen pictures of the chakras. Chakras are symbolized diagrammatically as flowers with petals, right from the base of your body to the top of your head. And typically we see 7 chakras, though in the Shakti practice, in the Sri Vidya practice, we have 9 chakras, including one in the middle of the forehead and one at the base of the crown, and then of course on top. So these chakras are very deeply concentrated energy centers that collect, or where a lot of nadis, a lot of pranic flows, a lot of neural networks crisscross. So it creates a core of very intense working, which then controls the area around it, the energy, the flows, the psychology connected to that chakra, the physiology connected to that chakra, the organs connected to that chakra, etc. That's a long study by itself, but just enough today to know that we have different energy centers which conduct different workings in our system. So we have one chakra here at the chest area, in the center, along the central channel, the Sushumna Nadi. We have the Anahata Chakra. Sorry? We have the Anahata Chakra. Then at the throat, we have the Vishuddhi Chakra. And here, covering all our sinuses and the third eye region, we have the Agnya Chakra. Now, these are the 3 chakras which come into play for the entire maintenance of our pranic flows. These are the sthiti chakras, as we call them in Sri Vidya. These maintain the pranic flows. So there are 3 Bija Mantras I would like to teach you today without going into too much detail. One is that which helps you to open up your lungs. It helps you to open up your lungs and release all that is stuck there. That is the Bija Mantra for the chest area, Anahata Chakra. And the seed sound, or the Bijakshara or the Bija Mantra here is the sound Y. By the way, this sound yam, ya, bindu. Okay? So, yang. So this is the Bija mantra, which not only eases out your lungs, it also is responsible for relieving asthma. Asthma is not an action of the nose or the throat. It is a constriction that happens here. So when you activate or when you begin to use the Bija mantra for the Anahata chakra at the chest area, it also helps other conditions besides opening up your chest. You follow this up with the Bija mantra for the Vishuddhi Chakra, which is Ha. So this is the Vayu Chakra. This is the Akasha or Vyoma Chakra, Vishuddhi. And this is beyond the elements, which is the governing will center, which is the Agnya. So at the Vishuddhi Chakra, we will clear our throat with the Bija mantra. And then this entire area can be vibrated to a far greater extent than by steam, just by the correct chanting of the Bija mantra of the Agnya Chakra, which is Om. So, there are two ways to do Om. One is to do it with your mouth closed, which is Brahmari. We call it Brahmari, which activates the whole face and vibrates it. So, Brahmari is when your mouth is shut and you do You can feel your whole face vibrating if you do that. When you chant Om, then you take the sound from the bottom to the top, but the mainstay is here, right in the middle, in your paranasal sinuses along with your forehead here. So how do we chant Om? What is the correct way? Imagine the symbol of Om. What is the symbol of Om? U, if you, in the Sanskrit alphabet, the letter U, Devanagari script, with a bindu, Chandra bindu on top. However, we never pay attention to this symbol when we are actually uttering Om. We say O and Ma, or we say A, U, Ma. Actually, that's not the way you chant the entire Om. When you're chanting Om all together, when you're not thinking of the Om as the split parts of life or consciousness, as we learn in the Mandukya Upanishad, which is also very interesting. But when we chant Om collect as one whole, then the seat of Om is this point. So if it is this point, then the sound must reach that point when you chant it. And the way to do it is when you chant, think of your white sound as the base of your pyramid becoming narrower, 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 coming to U, turning nasal, and U becoming nasal then starts concentrating here in the middle of your forehead and then spreading onto your paranasal sinuses and above. So how do we chant Om? Your mouth will not close completely. Imagine your mouth round from inside and becoming the smallest dot. Very, very slightly open, not closed completely. Okay? So when you think of that, then the sound will not stop here. If you do Om, the sound will vibrate here. If you make it oo and nasal, it will vibrate here. And that's where you want it to vibrate. So that's the way to do Om. There is much that I can share, many, many techniques. Time is too short. But there is one important thing I'd like to share with you at the end. And that is something that's age-old, but we ignore it. We think of it as esoteric. We think of it not close to our lives. And I would like it to come really close to our method of operation, our way of life, which will help us in the present situation. So I'm going to again share the screen with you and share the 8 limbs of yoga, Ashtanga yoga of Patanjali for a moment. Okay, so I'm going to share screen. Can't see the songs. Okay. So this is a very nice representation of Ashtanga yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga. Okay. Because I want you to consider for a moment, you know, we want, like Manisha said, quick remedies. We don't realize how quickly these can affect us. Most of us who are sitting here and listening today are people who have perhaps not been attacked by COVID or have a mild attack and want solutions. One, as I said earlier, please conserve your prana. Okay, now I want to deal with not all the 8 limbs because we are not going into samadhi right now, but I want to show you how rootless we are. How can we, the tree, be strong if our roots are not strong? So what are the roots before we can even begin to use these tools and really make them effective? Those tools are called the roots Yama and Niyama. These are the roots of our practice, the roots of the practice of being well and being strong and being pranically combative. Okay? So Yama is, I'm not going to go through all these details now, but very quickly, Ahimsa, Satya, Brahmacharya, Asteya, and Aparigraha. Okay? So I am going to just talk about Yama and Niyama as our building blocks to wellness, which we often forget. There is so much that we are doing, not only to harm ourselves, all the practices that we are adopting in our lives, even medical practices, most of them are weakening our pranic body, are making us susceptible to diseases. We are not drinking enough water every morning. We are not increasing our pranic energy by water. So one thing I would request here is when we are talking about restraint and observances, niyama, restrain from, again, wasting your energy. Restrain from hinsa, from hatred, from blame games. Today, the whole world, every one of us, the media, everybody is in a blame game. We are not here to support each other. We are here to blame each other. We use 1 hour for support and 10 hours to blame. That's the world we're living in today. So move your consciousness away from blaming yourself, from blaming people, from harming yourself, from harming people. Create restraint. What is Brahmacharya? It is not celibacy, as we often say. It's not moderation. It is becoming a laser beam from a light bulb. It is giving up too many activities, concentrating on a few useful ones for the growth of your energy, for the growth of your consciousness, for the growth of your health, and so on. So yama is restraint. Most important thing, there's another word for it, parhez. Parhez karna. We used to say parhez karo. When you're not well, when the atmosphere is not well, atmosphere is full of bacteria or virus, do not have fried things. This was an old saying. We would always say, there is more bacteria in the air, so do not have fried things, have more water, rest more. So these were old practices which I'm reminding us of again today. Please exercise restraint, both pranically in terms of your voice, talk less, think less, hate less, stay with compassion, stay with love, stay with conserving your energy and focusing on the right things, and adopt niyama, adopt certain practices. Please have lots of water, the greatest medicine on earth. Have lots of water. Try to have warm water in this situation. A little bit of turmeric in your water works wonders. I have literally lived over the last 1.5 years with this small pinch of water 2 or 3 times a day, particularly before going to sleep at night and, other times of the day. A little bit of turmeric kills bacteria, kills negative conditions in your body. Antioxidants. Stay with having a lot of antioxidants. Do some exercise. Increase the energy of your body by asana. And then finally, do pranayama. Exercise your breath. Increase the breath intake by mantra. The Bija Mantras also help to increase the capacity of your breath and take in more oxygen and turn inward, pratyahara. This was a very short introduction to Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, but very, very important in today's day and age because we are running. Let us stop running. Let us be still so that we can achieve more. So I think I have to pause now. I was dictated or asked to pause by Manisha after about 40 minutes. So we can take up questions, I guess. And more answers, more solutions will probably come through your questions now. Okay.
Thank you, Shruti. My stream is full of appreciation for the talk and how simplistically you have put across the information, focused, made everybody focus on it. Now, I'll take some time to quickly take some questions from the stream. Vishal Bakshi wants to know that, is it advisable to do breathing exercises in a polluted city like Delhi? Very relevant concern, I must say.
So, are you giving the screen back to me?
Yes, yes, you're live.
Am I? Okay, right. So, Vishal, good question. Do you think you are more polluted outside than your home? Do you realize that most of the fungus that grows is because you do not get movement of air. There are enough trees in Delhi. Why don't you go and sit under a tree? I was talking about bovis. If you measure the bovis under a big tree, that bovis of that tree or the atmosphere under that tree will be far greater than your body. We have measured bovis under a peepal tree or a banyan tree. It's 50,000 bovis. The bovis of your body may be, if you're weak, 12,000, 19,000. If you're strong, you will be 50,000 bovis.
But
when you sit clustered in a room thinking you're protected, actually you're building bacteria. You are breathing out carbon dioxide. That is far more killing for you than the pollution outside.
Shruti, if I may interrupt here.
Yes.
Probably Vishal means, the months in Delhi when the AQI goes up to 600, 700, and it's hazardous and over, the safety reading by so many times.
Yes.
What would you say
Have
for
we ever
those
thought
conditions?
of protecting our cows and our dogs and our cats and our birds who are living in that AQI outside? Have we given them air purifiers? Did they fall down and die? Are they wearing masks? Well, it's a question. Yes, we have these readings. Yes, there is pollution. You're choosing to live in that pollution. You're not choosing to go away from it. But there are solutions. There are parks in Delhi. Even if you want to protect yourself at home, can you not get out of your house and sit under a tree in a park? Can you not go for a walk in the park? Can you not breathe in the oxygen that is there early morning? Are we all practicing it?
Maybe for those months.
How scared do we want to be in our lives? Do you know that the biggest killer is fear? In the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks about 26 divine qualities or 26 qualities to become a warrior. And the first quality is abhayam, fearlessness. We are gripped with fear today. How will you increase your combative strength? You have killed yourself even before you begin. How much fear are we living with? How can you live with so much fear in your being all the time? Find solutions for yourself. Breathe. Find places where you can breathe. Breathe at home. At least breathe at home. Your breath, how shallow is it? When you are in fear, your breath will become shallow. Observe yourself.
We'll go to the next question now, Shruti.
Yes.
So there has been talk of Om also generating nitric oxide, supposedly, and it helps in, of course, fighting COVID. Is there any truth in it?
Yes, there's a lot, in fact, a lot on, again, social media about nitric oxide. A lot of scientists have spoken about it. So when you breathe in, the more you breathe in with pranayama, with chanting particularly, there's been a lot which I have also spoken about. Others have also spoken about humming. When you hum, when you vibrate this area, it helps the oxygen to interact with the nitrogen that is stored in your paranasal sinuses and produce nitric oxide that helps in combating the virus in a very simple way. It can be expressed more scientifically, but this is the basic mechanism of what happens. Vibration, particularly sonic vibration, helps you to release the activity of the nitrogen and the interaction with oxygen and create nitric oxide. Yes.
Well, thank you, Shruti. Unfortunately, all good things have to come to an end and we have to wrap up this session also. But I know that all the aspects that you have touched. It's not even tip of the iceberg, and there is plenty more to explore, but for another day. So on behalf of Chairman Intact, Major General L.K. Gupta, our Member Secretary, Dr. C.T. Misra, and all the members of our Intact family, it is my pleasure and privilege to say thank you to you, and for this invaluable exploration of our Indic systems that we have been through in last 1 hour with you. Now let's see how regular practice can benefit everybody. And with that, thank you once again. Namaste.
Thank you, Manisha, and thank you to